She told me not to follow her, so I stayed in the dark and watched anyway. And when she stepped into another man's car, with the ease of someone who'd done it before, I finally understood why her voice shook every time she said my name. She wasn't afraid I'd catch her. She was afraid I'd accept the truth. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Your voice helps this story find someone who needs it too. I didn't know a marriage could end quietly. I always thought it would be loud, an argument, a slammed door, a final sentence that pierced everything. But that night taught me the truth. Some endings arrive on soft footsteps, wearing the familiar perfume of someone you once trusted blindly. When my wife whispered, "Don't follow me tonight, please," she didn't sound angry. She sounded afraid. Not of me, not of getting caught. Afraid of what I would do with the truth once it finally stopped hiding. I stayed in the living room for a full minute after the door closed. A long, slow minute where nothing moved except my heartbeat. Her keys hadn't jingled the way they normally did. Her steps were quicker. Her breath had trembled when she leaned close to say those 5 words. Something was wrong. Or maybe something had been wrong for much longer than I wanted to admit. I put on my jacket slowly, like a man pretending he still had control. Then I stepped outside. The night felt different, colder, thinner, like the air had been cut open. My wife's beige coat was already half a block ahead, the streetlights catching its edges, like it didn't belong to her anymore. She didn't look back once, not even when she crossed the small patch of sidewalk where she usually paused to adjust her scarf. She walked with purpose, with a destination, with someone waiting. And I followed because something inside me, something old, something tired, told me I had already lost her. I just didn't know when. She stopped at the curb, didn't check the street, didn't hesitate. A black sedan rolled up quietly, like it had memorized this route. She opened the passenger door without knocking, without calling, without searching for reassurance. She knew exactly who was inside. She stepped in with one motion, smooth practiced. Not the way you enter a stranger's car, not the way you enter a friend's car. No, the way you enter a life you've already stepped into many times. My lungs tightened. I didn't move. I didn't shout. The car rolled forward, and for a split second the interior light flicked on, just enough for me to see the silhouette of a man leaning slightly toward her, just enough to see the way her shoulders dropped. Relief, comfort, familiarity. Comfort she didn't have with me anymore. The car turned the corner and disappeared, but the image stayed. It's strange how a moment that lasts less than 1 second can dismantle years of marriage. Years. I stood there long after the engine noise faded. The street looked the same, but I wasn't the same. I walked home alone, my breathing shallow, my hands cold, even inside my pockets. Every sound felt too loud. The scrape of my shoes on the pavement, the distant hum of a passing truck, even the wind brushing dead leaves down the sidewalk. It all felt wrong. When I reached our door, I hesitated, not because I feared what I would find inside, but because I feared how normal everything would look. And it did. Her coffee mug still sat where she left it. Her book lay open on the couch like she had only stepped away for a minute. The house smelled like her lotion lavender and something warm. A house can lie better than a person. It holds the shape of love, even when love has already left. I walked to the bedroom and sat on my side of the bed. My hands were trembling. It wasn't rage. It wasn't shock. It was the strange calm of someone realizing the truth had been whispering in his ear for months, and he had simply refused to listen. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand, not once, twice, 3 times. Her phone used to be silent. Now it shook like a heartbeat. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But betrayal changes the rules. It takes all the things you swore you'd never do and makes them feel like survival. The screen lit up. A name appeared. A man's name. One I had never seen in her contacts before. Then the message. Short, familiar, intimate. I'm here. Same street. My chest tightened until it hurt. He wasn't texting her to ask where she was. He already knew. They had a routine, a system, a place. The car wasn't a one-time thing. And that sentence, that simple little sentence, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't misunderstanding. It was confirmation. My wife wasn't slipping away. She was already gone. And the worst part wasn't the message. It wasn't the car. It wasn't the whispered, "Don't follow me." The worst part was realizing she trusted him more than she feared losing me. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just listened. Because somewhere between the walls and the silence, I swear I heard something else. A detail I hadn't noticed before. A clue I should have seen months ago. And once I realized what it meant, everything about her actions that night made a terrifying kind of sense. But that part didn't reveal itself until the next evening, when she walked through the door and tried to act like nothing had happened. My wife walked back into the house the next evening, like she hadn't rewritten the shape of our marriage the night before. It was almost impressive. The way she slipped out of her shoes, the way she brushed her hair behind her ear, the way she said, "Hey," in that practiced soft tone that used to anchor me. But now, every gentle detail felt like evidence. Her scarf smelled faintly of someone else's cologne, a sharper scent. Not mine, not any of her co-workers. Something foreign, something that didn't belong here. I didn't say anything at first. Silence can be its own kind of truth, and I wanted to see how she'd fill it. She set her purse down, avoiding eye contact for a second. Just 1 second. Then she lifted her head and forced a smile. The small, polite kind you give to a stranger you don't want to talk to. "How was your evening?" she asked. That question used to be harmless. Now it sounded like bait. "Quiet," I said, and I noticed the way she blinked. Not guilt, not shock, but recognition. Like she already knew I had been home alone, waiting for an explanation she wasn't planning to give. She moved to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. Her hands weren't shaking. Mine were. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It sits quietly behind your ribs, forcing you to memorize the person you love in a way you never wanted to, counting the ways they've changed, noticing the details they can't hide anymore. She took a sip and leaned on the counter. For a moment, I thought she might tell the truth. Instead, she asked, "Did you eat?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how normal it sounded, how delicately she tried to stitch the routine back together as if last night had never existed. "Yeah," I said, "I ate." Lie for lie. Even if mine were softer. She nodded and looked down. Her hair fell forward, shielding her expression. But not enough. I saw the exhaustion beneath her foundation. I saw the tension in her jaw. I saw the way her lips pressed together, like she was holding back words that didn't belong to me anymore. People imagine cheaters look guilty. They don't. They look tired, worn thin from carrying two lives at once. She filled the silence again. "How was work?" "Fine," she nodded again. Her pattern was obvious. Now questions meant to fill space, not build connection. When she finally walked over and sat beside me on the couch, I could feel the space between us, like a fault line. We used to sink into this sofa together. Tonight she perched on its edge, like she didn't want to leave an imprint. Distance is the first betrayal. A touch is the last. She glanced at me. I was waiting for something, anything, that proved last night wasn't what it looked like. A crack in her voice, a hint of remorse. But she just said, "You seem quiet today." Quiet. If only she knew how loud her absence had been. I looked at her for the first time that night, really looked. The woman I married was there. Same soft eyes. Same gentle hands, same quiet presence. But the center of her was gone. "You came home late," I said calmly. She stiffened barely, but enough. "I took a walk," she said. I nodded slowly, giving her a chance to correct herself. She didn't. "Alone," I added. Her breath caught for just a moment, a single fractured inhale. Then yes, that was her mistake. Her best lies were always mixed with truth. But this one was pure fiction. My heart didn't break then. It cracked. Quietly, like a small sound you ignore until it echoes. I didn't confront her. Not yet. There's a timing. To betrayal push too fast, and they retreat into denial. Push too late, and you lose the moment clarity arrives. So I waited, and she hesitated. And in that hesitation, I saw everything I needed to know. She reached for her phone. Instinct. Fear, guilt. Not fear of me. Fear of a message lighting up at the wrong time. I saw her thumb hover over the screen. She tilted it away from me. A small gesture, yeah. Huge meaning. She stood suddenly. "I'm gonna take a shower." Of course she was. Perfume, cologne, stray hair. Evidence washes off easier than guilt. I watched her walk down the hall, her steps fast, her posture tight. The bathroom door closed. And then I heard something I wasn't supposed to hear. Not water, not movement. A click. Her phone unlocking. In the bathroom. With the fan running. With the water off. She wasn't showering. She was texting. I stood up. Walked quietly to the hallway. Stopped 2 feet from the door. Her voice was a whisper, but the walls carried it. Soft. Careful. Secret. Not the way she spoke to me. I leaned closer. And then I heard the sentence that confirmed everything. "I think he knows." My heart didn't drop. It collapsed. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing him. And in that moment, I realized the truth I had been avoiding. Last night wasn't the betrayal. It was just the first time I finally saw it. I didn't go back to the living room. I stayed in the hallway, breathing slowly, listening not because I wanted to, but because part of me still hoped she'd say something that would pull me back from the edge. Something innocent, something harmless, something that would tell me I had misunderstood everything. But she didn't. She whispered again, too soft to make out the words. But the tone told the whole story. Soft, rehearsed, intimate. The kind of voice a woman uses when she's protecting the person she shouldn't love. It wasn't the voice she used with me anymore. The fan came on, water splashed, and the door stayed locked. She wasn't showering. She was erasing her tracks. I walked back to the living room and sat down slowly, feeling the weight of the house fold over me. Funny how a place can feel familiar and foreign at the same time. Like every object is exactly where it should be, but the meaning behind it has rotted. Her shoes by the door, her mug on the counter, her scarf still draped over the chair. All pieces of a life she was no longer living with me. I don't know how long I sat there before she came out. Her footsteps were soft, almost hesitant. She walked past me with damp hair and a practiced calm. Too calm. People always imagine cheaters come home nervous, jumpy, frantic. That's not true. The ones who are deep into it, the ones who've built a separate world, they come home quiet, measured, like they've already accepted a future you haven't caught up to yet. "You're still up?" she asked, forcing a small smile. I couldn't sleep. She nodded as if that made perfect sense. As if my insomnia wasn't connected to the man who had texted her. I'm here. Same street. She sat across from me, brushing her hair behind her shoulder. I watched her closely, not with anger, not yet, but with the strange clarity that comes when the truth has already entered the room and refuses to leave. "How was your shower?" I asked. She froze. Just for a breath. Just long enough for me to see her mentally rerunning the timeline, checking what I could have heard. Then she smiled again. Good. I needed it. I didn't look away. Her eyes flicked to the floor, another tell. The woman I married used to look directly at me when she spoke. The woman sitting here now couldn't hold my gaze for more than 2 seconds. "Rough night?" she asked casually. "Something like that." "Work?" "No." Her fingers tightened on her phone. She hadn't put it down since leaving the bathroom. She kept it half hidden by her leg screen facing inward. A married woman doesn't guard her phone like that, unless there's something inside that can burn her life down. "Do you want to talk about it?" she asked. I studied her face, every line, every micro-expression. She wasn't asking out of concern. She was asking out of fear. Fear that I might know something. Fear that I might say something she wasn't prepared to answer. I leaned back slowly, giving her space to either walk closer or walk away. She didn't move. "I saw you leave last night," I said quietly. She blinked. There it was, the first fracture. Small, quick, but real. "I told you I needed some air," she said. "You told me not to follow you." She hesitated. I didn't want to argue. "Who said we would argue?" That question landed harder than she expected. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Guilt never enter loudly. It slips through silence. She swallowed. "I just needed some space." That's not what it looked like. The air tightened between us. She clasped her hands together. Her phone buzzed lightly twice. She didn't dare look at it. "I don't know what you think you saw," she whispered. Interesting choice of words. Not I didn't do anything. You're misunderstanding. No. She went straight to defense. Straight to the territory of someone who knows the truth is out, but doesn't know how much of it you've grasped. I leaned forward. I saw a car. Her breath hitched. Not loudly. Barely audible, but enough. "A car," she repeated. "Yes." She stared at me like she was calculating whether to lie or confess. Whether to build a new story or stitch an old one. I waited. The hardest part of discovering betrayal isn't the moment you see the truth. It's the moment you give them a chance to tell you, and they choose not to. She looked away. "You're overthinking." Overthinking. A word used by people who want you to doubt your instincts. I nodded slowly. She took that nod as a victory. She stood. "I'm tired," she said softly. "Let's talk tomorrow." Tomorrow, always tomorrow. Not because the truth would change by then, but because she hoped my willingness to see it would. She walked toward the bedroom. Her phone buzzed again. She tightened her grip, walked faster, closed the door behind her. Not slammed, not rushed, quietly. The quietest things always hide the loudest truths. I didn't follow her, not this time. I stayed on the couch, letting the silence grow heavy around me. She thought the conversation was over, but tomorrow would open a door she couldn't close again. Because I wasn't overthinking. I was finally thinking clearly, and she wasn't careful enough to hide everything. There was one detail, small, easy to miss, that she overlooked. A detail I had already seen. A detail she didn't know had followed her into the house. A detail that would expose everything. And when she tried to explain it, her voice would tremble for the first time. There's something strange about sleeping in the same house as someone who's lying to you. The air feels thinner. The walls feel closer. Even the darkness feels divided, half yours, half theirs. I lay on the couch for hours listening to the kinds of sounds you only notice when you're hearing the faint hum of the fridge, the quiet tick of the hallway clock, the soft creak of the floorboards near the bedroom. She moved twice during the night, not to the bathroom, not to get water, to check her phone. I didn't need to see it. People make different sounds when they're touching something they're afraid to lose. Her footsteps were the same as always, light controlled, but her breaths were sharper. Quick inhales, long exhales, like someone trying to calm their own guilt before it spills out. Around 3 a.m., she whispered something, a single word, too soft to hear, but not soft enough to disguise the truth it wasn't my name. She wasn't dreaming of me. When the sun finally started to rise, I stood up slowly, feeling older than my age. Betrayal ages you. It bends your spine, pulls your shoulders in, makes you feel like your body is carrying memories it never agreed to hold. I walked to the bedroom door, not to confront her, but because I needed to know if she'd even pretend this morning. The door opened before I reached it. She stepped out, her hair pulled back loosely, her face washed, her expression carefully rebuilt. If I hadn't seen the truth last night, I might have believed she had just woken up from a peaceful dream. But lies leave shadows on a person's face, and her shadows were finally visible to me. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning." She looked at me the way someone looks at a problem they're hoping will go away if they smile at it. She moved to the kitchen, pouring 2 cups of coffee, the way she always did, because routine is the easiest mask for guilt. When she handed me my mug, her hand brushed mine. Once that touch would have anchored me. Today it felt like a stranger accidentally handing me their wallet. I watched her carefully. Her shoulders were tense. Her eyes kept drifting to her purse, specifically the pocket where her phone was hiding. "That was a long night," she said quietly. "For both of us." She froze for a half second. Not enough for most people to notice, but enough for me. She stirred her coffee 3 circles clockwise, 1 counterclockwise, the same pattern she'd had for years. I used to find it endearing. Now it felt rehearsed. "You said you wanted to talk today," she said, not looking up. "I do." She nodded slowly, breathing in through her nose, out through her mouth. Preparing. Not for honesty, for damage control. She finally met my eyes. "What did you want to talk about?" I didn't start with the car, or the man, or the message. I started with the details she didn't think I'd noticed. "You weren't wearing that scarf when you left." Her eyes widened only slightly, but in a way she couldn't hide. The beige scarf draped over the chair had always been her favorite. But last night in the streetlight, she wasn't wearing it. Someone else's scent was on her coat because she had removed it before getting into the car, and she had put it back on when she returned. I let the silence stretch. Silence is where the truth drowns people like her. She swallowed hard. "It was cold," she said. "It wasn't cold when you left." A lie. A small one, but the kind that cracks the foundation of bigger ones. She exhaled sharply. "John, what are you trying to say?" I tilted my head. "Why did you tell someone I think he knows?" Her face drained of color. She didn't deny it, didn't pretend, didn't ask who I heard. She just froze like a person who's been running from a wolf and suddenly realizes the wolf was inside their own house all along. She set her coffee down, hands trembling for the first time. "What did you hear?" she whispered. "Enough." Another tremble, not from fear of being misunderstood, from fear of being exposed. Her voice dropped. "John, please, please." A word that used to soften me. But today, it felt like another lie, wearing a familiar dress. "Who were you talking to last night?" I asked calmly. She shook her head. I can't, John. I don't want to hurt you." "You already did." Those 3 words hit her harder than any accusation would have. Her mouth opened like she wanted to explain, then closed, then opened again. She wasn't searching for the truth. She was searching for the right lie. I leaned back. "You don't have to tell me everything," I said quietly. "Just tell me his name." Her eyes filled, not with sorrow, but with panic. A trapped panic. A panic that belonged to someone afraid their 2 worlds were about to collide. "I can't," she whispered. That was all I needed. The truth hides in refusals. I nodded slowly. She stepped back as if the space between us had turned into a cliff's edge. For the first time, she looked genuinely terrified. Not of me, not of losing me, of losing him. And then just when I thought she couldn't reveal anything else, her phone vibrated inside her purse. A vibration she recognized instantly. The kind that tightens a guilty person's spine. She lunged for her bag. Too fast. I didn't move. I didn't need to. Because the screen lit up before she could silence it. And the name that appeared wasn't a nickname. wasn't a code, wasn't disguised. It was a full name, a name I knew, a name that didn't belong in a married woman's phone, a name that shouldn't have been contacting her at all. She froze mid-reach, and I felt the floor drop out from under me. Because in that split second I realized the man whose car she entered last night wasn't a stranger to me. The name on her phone didn't just sting. It hollowed me out, because it wasn't the name of a coworker, wasn't the name of a stranger, wasn't some random man she met at a store or a gas station. It was someone I knew, someone I had trusted, someone who could in my home, laughed with us, eaten at our table. A man whose voice I would recognize anywhere. His name glowed on her screen, like a wound mark. My friend. My closest friend. The man who had helped me fix our porch last spring. The man who had hugged me when my father died. The man who had once told me, "You're the kind of husband every woman hopes for." He had said that while looking right at my wife. Now I understood why she looked away when he did. Her hand hovered over the phone, frozen. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched her world spill out from the silence she had built around it. "John," she whispered, voice thin as paper. My chest tightened. Not from anger, but from the realization that betrayal wasn't something happening to me. It was something happening around me, like a storm I had been standing in. Without realizing, I was soaked. I pointed at the phone. "Pick it up." She didn't. She backed away slowly, shaking her head like a child who knows they've been caught. Her voice cracked. "I can explain." "No," I said quietly. "You can't." She pressed her hand to her mouth, eyes welling up, not with sadness, but with the terror of someone whose secret life had finally collided with the one she pretended to have. "John, please," she whispered again. Her pleases weren't for forgiveness. They were for time. Time to adjust the lie, time to salvage whatever story she had been rehearsing in her head. But there was no time left. "Were you with him?" I asked. Her breath hitched. That was my answer. "How long?" John. How long? Her shoulders collapsed inwards, like she was folding under the weight of her own guilt. "A few months," she finally breathed. "A few months." I felt something inside me shut off, like a light that had been flickering for too long. A few months wasn't a mistake. A few months wasn't a moment of weakness. A few months was a choice. "You told him I know," I said. She looked down. Tears slipped off her lashes and hit the floor. She wasn't crying because she hurt me. She was crying because she lost control of the lie. "Do you love him?" I asked. I don't know why I asked. Maybe part of me needed the final blade to fall. She hesitated. A hesitation sharp enough to cut open a man's chest. "John," she whispered. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That wasn't an answer. That was worse. "I asked you if you love him." She turned away, silent. And silence has never answered a question as brutally as hers did. I felt the room tilt. The ground wasn't steady anymore. My marriage wasn't steady anymore. Maybe it hadn't been for a long time. She wiped her eyes with shaking fingers, then reached for the counter to steady herself. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she said softly. He was there. I was lonely. You were distant. We were drifting. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore." I nodded slowly. Cheaters always give the same speech. They talk about drifting, about emotional distance, about timing, about loneliness. But none of those things justify stepping into another man's car, especially a man who knew me, a man who shook my hand while sleeping with my wife behind my back. I trusted him, I said. My voice sounded different, older, thinner. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near you. Her lips shook. I know. You didn't stop him. She closed her eyes. I couldn't. That sentence was the clearest truth she had spoken all morning. She couldn't stop him because she didn't want to. I ran a hand over my face, trying to steady my breathing. The kitchen felt smaller, the air thicker. Every inch of this home suddenly felt like it belonged to a stranger. She finally spoke again, very softly, almost inaudibly. I didn't want you to find out like this. That broke something inside me I didn't know was still intact. Like what I asked. Seeing you in his car. Hearing you whisper to him in the bathroom. Watching his name light up your phone. She winced. Every word hit her. Every truth cut her. I'm sorry, she choked. John, I'm so sorry. Her apologies sounded like a reflex, not remorse. I stared at her for a long moment. She stood there shaking hands pressed to her chest, as if trying to keep her rib cage from breaking. Did he ever come into our house? I asked quietly. She froze, long enough for me to know the answer before she opened her mouth. Her lips trembled. Not when you were home, she whispered. Not when you were home. Not when you were home. Not when you were home. The sentence echoed so loudly, I thought the walls might crack. I closed my eyes. Not from humiliation. My home. My space, my life. He had been inside it. Walking on floors I swept. Sitting on furniture I bought. Breathing air that didn't belong to him. I opened my eyes slowly. She looked like she was standing in the ruins of something she never expected me to see. Where I asked, she swallowed tears streaking down her cheeks. The living room, she whispered. Once, maybe twice. I nodded, numb. And the bedroom, she broke, completely. Her face crumpled as she shook her head violently. No, John, no! I swear never in our bed. Never. I didn't know if I believed her. But I knew she believed the word never would save her. It didn't. Nothing could. I stepped back from her. Distance, space, ere I could actually breathe. She reached for me, but I lifted my hand and she stopped, like she'd hit an invisible wall. And then before either of us could speak, her phone vibrated again. Same tone, same rhythm, same man. She stared at the screen, horrified. Not because he messaged her. Because he messaged her while she was still standing in front of me. And the preview text, just 2 words, was enough to flip something inside me from heartbreak to cold clarity. 2 words that were not meant for my eyes. 2 words that told me he wasn't afraid of me. 2 words that told me she hadn't ended it. 2 words that told me he thought she was alone. 2 words that changed everything. All good. All good. 2 words. Simple. Casual. Typed by a man who had been in my house, in my life, in my marriage, and still felt comfortable enough to check on her like she belonged to him. My wife sucked in a sharp breath. Her fingers shook as she grabbed her phone, almost dropping it. She turned away from me like a child hiding a failing test paper. John, I just wait, please. But there was no weight left in me. Her body curled protectively around the phone, shielding it like a wounded animal guarding its last piece of safety. And I realized something horrifying. She wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting him. I stepped closer. Slow measure. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Open it, I said. She froze. John! Her voice cracked, splintering under the weight of everything she'd tried to hide. I'm begging you. Don't open it. She pressed the phone to her chest, tears spilling down her face. Her shoulders shook, but she didn't hand it over. She wasn't choosing honesty. She was choosing him. That was the moment my heart stopped breaking. Not because the pain lessened, but because there was nothing left to shatter. I stepped back and sat down, letting the silence speak louder than either of us could. She stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding that phone like a confession. She refused to say out loud. After a minute, maybe two, she finally whispered the truth she had been trying to bury. He didn't mean to text. He didn't know you were here. A bitter laugh escaped to me. Small, ugly, real. So he expected you to be alone. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. Yes. And he didn't think there was anything wrong with checking on you at 9 in the morning while your husband was supposed to be at home. She stared at the floor. I told him you'd be asleep. That sentence landed like a stone dropping into black water, silent at first, then echoing. She wasn't hiding from me last night. She was hiding me from him. Give me the phone, I said again, quieter this time. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. She just whispered, I can't. Not I won't. Not I'm scared. Not please don't make me. I can't. The kind of sentence only a person who has crossed every line can say. I leaned back in the chair, exhaustion pulling me deeper into myself. Is that how far this went? I asked. You gave him access to your days, your nights, your phone, your mind. She covered her mouth with both hands as a sob tore out of her. Not soft, not controlled, raw, panicked. Her guilt wasn't calculated anymore. It was erupting. I didn't plan this, she cried. I didn't mean to fall into anything. Fall, I cut in. You didn't fall. You climbed. She shook her head violently. You don't understand. He was helping me. I was drowning. We were fighting. You were distant. I didn't know how to reach you anymore. I stared at her, feeling the coldness settle into my bones. You reached for him. Her legs buckled, and she slid down the cabinet, sitting on the floor with her head in her hands. Her breaths came fast and uneven. But something inside me had shifted. A quietness. A clarity. I want the truth, I said softly. She raised her eyes, red, broken, terrified. I told you the truth. No, I said, and you told me pieces. I want the whole thing. She swallowed hard. I don't know where to start. Start with the beginning. She closed her eyes. And when she opened them again, I saw the woman she really was, not the wife I remembered, not the stranger she had become, but the person standing between both versions, trying to choose which one to kill. It started months ago, she whispered, before things got bad with us, before we stopped talking, before everything got heavy. And he made you feel better, I said. She nodded slowly, ashamed. He listened, she said. More than you did. He asked how I was. He checked on me. He noticed things. And I got used to it. Used to him. She nodded again. And then it crossed a line. She didn't answer. Her silence did. I leaned forward. You met him outside, in secret. Yes, she whispered. You drove with him. Yes. You touched him. A pause. Not even a breath. A pause full of truth. Yes. And last night, I asked. Her face twisted in pain. She hesitated. Then finally, yes. The room felt like it shifted like the walls pulled back and the floor tilted. But I held myself steady. "And the car?" I asked. "Has that happened once, twice, or more?" She closed her eyes as if trying to hide from herself. More. More. The ugliest word of them all. I rubbed my palms together, trying to keep them warm, trying to keep myself from falling apart. In the house. My voice was barely above a whisper. "If you ever lie to me, don't do it now. Did he ever step foot in here when I wasn't home?" Her lips trembled. Her hands shook. Her eyes brimmed. "Yes." I inhaled. Slowly. Deep. Steady. The kind of breath a man takes right before accepting a truth that will change him forever. Ever. She broke down completely. "I'm sorry. John. Please, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know how it got this far." But her apologies felt like rain hitting a closed window. They couldn't reach me anymore. I stood up. Her eyes widened as she scrambled to her feet. "Where are you going?" she cried. "Away from the lies." "John, please don't leave me like this. Don't walk away." "I'm not walking away," I said. "I'm stepping out of the story you wrote without me." She reached for me, instinct, desperation, terror. Her hand touched my arm. And for the first time in our marriage, I stepped back. She froze, hurt, shaken, shattered. And then her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't move. Because she knew whatever came next would destroy the last piece she was still trying to protect. Her phone buzzed again, this time louder, longer, like the sound itself was daring her to respond in front of me. She didn't move toward it, didn't even blink. She just stared at me with wide, terrified eyes, as if that vibration was the sound of her second life collapsing in real time. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then it buzzed again. 3 vibrations, same rhythm, same man. "Mark." My friend, her lover. Her voice broke the silence. First tiny, cracked, barely holding itself together. "John, please don't read it." I tilted my head slightly. "Why? Because it'll hurt me. Or because it'll expose you." She flinched like the words physically struck her. "I'm already exposed," she whispered. "You already know everything." "No," I said. "I don't." She swallowed hard. "What else do you want to know?" "The truth you're still protecting." Her knees weakened. She lowered herself into the chair like she didn't trust her legs. Her hair clung to her cheeks, wet from tears or sweat, I couldn't tell. But that wasn't the image that stayed with me. It was her hands. Still clenched. Still shaking. Still protecting that phone, as if it were the last piece of the life she actually cared about. "Let me see the message," I said slowly. She shook her head immediately. "I can't. You keep saying that." "Because it's the truth." I walked closer. "No," I said. "The truth is what you're refusing to show me." Her breath trembled. "John, you won't survive reading it." "That's not your decision." She stood up suddenly, almost knocking the chair back. "I'm trying to protect you from what I asked quietly. From his words, from yours, from seeing what I already know." She covered her face. "From the part of me you're not ready to hate." That stopped me. For a moment, just a moment, the woman standing in front of me wasn't the liar, wasn't the stranger, wasn't the wife who stepped into another man's car at night. She was the version of her that had been hiding behind every excuse, every lie, every half-truth. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid I'd finally see the part of her that didn't love me anymore. "Let me see the phone," I repeated calmer than before. She lowered her hands. Her eyes were red, her lips trembling, her voice barely audible.
John, he doesn't talk to me like a friend. You'll hate how he talks to me.
That's exactly why I need to read it. She shook her head violently.
No, I can't let his words be the last thing you think about when you look at me.
They already are. She gasped, like that sentence stole the air from her lungs. And then, as if the universe wanted to test the last fragment of her excuses, the phone buzzed again. But this time, the preview text lit up brightly, large enough for both of us to see. She lunged for the phone.
Too late.
I had already read the line. It was short, familiar, intimate.
Tell me when he leaves.
Those 6 words sucked every remaining piece of warmth out of the room. My wife froze mid-step. Her hand hovered over the phone, but she didn't touch it, didn't breathe. She knew I saw it, and she knew there was no undoing it. I stepped back as something cold settled in my chest. Not jealousy, not rage, understanding. She wasn't torn between 2 men. She wasn't conflicted. She wasn't lost. She was planning, waiting, scheduling around me like I was a chore on her calendar. Like her loyalty was something she could turn on and off, depending on who stood in the room. A single tear slid down her cheek. Not from guilt, from fear.
John,
She whispered.
yes.
It's not what you think. I didn't laugh. I didn't scream. I didn't even smile. I just shook my head slowly. If it wasn't what I think I said, he wouldn't need to know when I'm gone. She sank to the floor, her body folding in on itself.
Then something happened. Quiet, small, but devastating.
She whispered his name, not under her breath, not as a mistake, not out of panic. She whispered it like someone losing a lifeline.
Mark?
And she didn't realize she said it. I felt everything inside me go still, completely still. Her eyes widened when she realized what slipped out.
I didn't mean. You did, I said.
She covered her mouth with both hands, shaking her head, like the world had suddenly tilted.
John, she sobbed. I'm sorry. I don't know why. You said his name because he's the one you're thinking about. No. You said his name because he's the one you're trying to protect.
She buried her face in her palms. And you said his name, I added quietly, because he's the one you're hoping texts you again. She sobbed harder, raw, terrified, drowning in the truth she couldn't run from anymore. I stood there, still silent, watching the woman I built a life with unravel in front of me. Not because she wanted to protect our marriage, but because the man she loved was waiting for her reply. And then, through her shaking breaths, through her tears, through the disaster she had created, she whispered the one sentence that cut deeper than everything else combined. I didn't want you to find out like this. Not while I still needed him. I didn't want you to find out like this. Not while I still needed him. The words echoed long after she said them. They didn't come out as an excuse. They came out as an instinct. The kind a person speaks before their mind kicks in, before guilt rearranges itself into something more presentable. She needed him, not me. Not us, not the marriage we built with 12 years of routine and memory. Him. She hid her face in her hands, but it didn't matter. I had already seen the truth, not in her eyes, not in her tears, but in the way her voice broke when she said his name. Not with shame, with attachment. I leaned against the counter, slowly feeling my legs weaken in a way that had nothing to do with age. Betrayal has a heaviness of its own, a weight you can feel in your bones, in your breath. in the spaces between your ribs.
When she finally looked up, her face was blotched and swollen.
John, I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. She shook her head, reaching out with trembling fingers. I stepped back again. For the second time that morning, she paused mid-reach, like her body hadn't fully learned that she no longer had permission to touch me.
She whispered, I didn't know how to stop.
That isn't the same thing as wanting to stop. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out this time. I watched her carefully. Every twitch, every breath, every incomplete sentence. She wasn't trying to win me back. She wasn't fighting for the marriage. She was fighting for her guilt to look less intentional.
Tell me the truth, I said.
All of it. She wiped her face again, smearing her mascara across her skin.
I don't know where to begin.
Begin where it hurts you the most.
She swallowed. Yeah, John, I didn't leave you for him.
I didn't ask that. She took a shaking breath.
I left myself.
That line almost made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly crafted to sound profound while dodging the truth.
Don't make this poetic, I said.
Make it honest. She looked down at the floor. There were things missing between us.
What things?
Connection, affection, talking, touch, effort. Her voice cracked on the last word. You stopped noticing me.
And he did.
She didn't answer. Her silence told me everything. I exhaled slowly. You should have talked to me.
I know.
You should have told me you were unhappy.
I know.
You should have left before this happened.
That one pierced her.
She closed her eyes. Tears leaked from the corners, slow, heavy, the kind that fall only when someone realizes they can't undo what they've done.
I didn't want to lose you, she whispered. You lost me the moment you called him, instead of talking to me.
She pressed both hands to her face and let out a quiet, broken sound. A sound of someone who wasn't mourning the marriage, but mourning the collapse of the world they tried to build behind it.
John, I was confused. No, I said. You were choosing.
She froze. And you're still choosing, I added. Her eyes widened. She didn't deny it. She didn't say she loved me. She didn't say she wanted to fix anything. She just froze. The absence of a confession is still a confession. I sat down, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor, because looking at her felt like staring at the sun. Too bright, too painful, too revealing.
What happens now? She whispered. You tell me.
Her voice trembled. I don't want to lose everything.
You already did.
She shook her head violently.
No, John, please don't say that.
I can make this right.
I'll cut him off. I'll block him. I'll delete everything.
Would you have done any of that? I asked if I hadn't seen the car. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No, I answered for her. You wouldn't have. She broke down again, shoulders shaking, breaths, sharp palms pressed to the ground like she needed to anchor herself before the world tilted.
I thought I had time, she whispered. I thought I could fix myself before you found out.
You thought I'd stay blind long enough for you to figure out which life you actually wanted. She didn't argue. That hurt more than anything else. She looked at me through tears, desperate. Small, fragile. John, what do you want me to do? I stared at her for a long moment.
What did I want?
An apology. It wouldn't undo the months she spent inside another man's life. The truth I already had more than I could bear. Her remorse. It wasn't for me, it was for the fallout.
What did I want?
A different past. A different truth. A different version of her. But none of that existed. So I told her the only thing I knew still mattered. Tell him it's over. Her breath caught. She shook her head slowly, like someone standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down at the fall.
John, I can't do that.
And there it was, the final truth, not the betrayal, not the car, not the messages, not the night she slipped into someone else's arms, but the fact that even now, with the truth exposed, she wouldn't choose me. I stood up. She scrambled to her feet, panic hitting her like a wave.
Wait, John, don't walk away. Don't leave, don't.
I'm not leaving, I said quietly. I'm giving you the chance to make the decision you've been avoiding. She looked terrified, shaken, cornered by the truth she kept feeding, watering, and protecting. Her hand hovered toward me.
Please, she begged, give me a little time. I said, months of it.
She stepped closer. I'll tell him. I will. Just not right now. I need you to trust me. I stared at her. Trust you? The irony almost choked me. I'll ask again, I said softly. And this time, don't lie. She inhaled sharply, bracing herself.
Do you still want him?
Her lips trembled. Her chin shook. Her breath stuttered. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She didn't say no. She didn't say yes. She just stood there.
And
then, in the silence between us and the distance, she couldn't close in the truth she couldn't say. Her phone buzzed again. Her phone buzzed again. A tiny sound, harmless to anyone else. But in that moment, it felt like the universe had decided to underline the truth she couldn't say aloud. She didn't move toward it this time. Not out of loyalty to me, out of shock. Out of fear that if she reached for it, she'd confirm everything she was trying so desperately to deny. The phone buzzed a second time. Same rhythm, same tone, same man. The man she still wanted. The man she still couldn't let go of. The man she whispered to in the dark while I slept in the next room. Her hands shook. Her breath stuttered. She backed away from the sound like it was fire. John, she whispered, voice trembling. Please, please don't read it. I don't need to, I said. She looked up at me slowly, like she didn't understand what I meant. You've said enough without reading anything. I continued. Every silence, every hesitation, every time you ask me to wait to give you time to not look. Her voice cracked. I'm trying to protect you. No, I said. You're trying to protect him. Her face collapsed. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Not graceful tears, not quiet ones, but the desperate kind that come from someone who realizes their excuses are no longer usable. I'm trying to protect both of you, she sobbed.
That's not possible.
She clutched her chest, shaking violently. John, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to say goodbye to someone who... Her voice cut off. She realized what she was about to confess. She looked away, covering her mouth. Someone who what? Someone who listened. Someone who held her. Someone who filled the space where my absence used to be. Someone she built a second life with in the shadows. I stepped closer. Say it, I said. She shook her head rapidly, like a child refusing medicine. I can't. You already told me everything, except the one thing that matters. Silence. She trembled. Her breathing was uneven. Her eyes darted toward the phone, not out of curiosity, but out of instinct. The kind of instinct that comes from longing, not obligation. Look at me, I said. She forced herself to. Her eyes were red, swollen, terrified. Do you still want him? I asked. Another silence, heavy, so suffocating. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again.
Nothing.
And that nothing was the loudest truth of all.
He's not good for me, she whispered finally.
That's not what I asked. She blinked, her chin trembled. I'm just confused, she said. No, I replied. Confusion is what people say when they're afraid of the answer. She wiped her face with shaking hands. I don't want to hurt you. You already did. Her breath broke again. I don't want to lose you.
You already did, I said softly, the moment you chose him.
She staggered back like the whir physically pushed her.
No, she cried. I love you, John. And I swear I do.
You don't love someone while planning around them. Her face twisted. I continued. You don't love someone while checking if the man you're cheating with is all good. You don't love someone while telling him when I'm gone. You don't love someone while whispering, I think he knows, behind a bathroom door. And you don't love someone while needing another man more than you need your husband. She shook her head violently. No, that's not. You didn't mean to get caught, I said. That's the only thing you didn't mean. Her knees buckled. She sat on the floor again, same spot as before, palms pressed flat to the tiles, like she needed the cold to anchor her. I can fix this, she whispered. Just tell me what to do. Tell him it's over, I repeated. Her eyes widened again, that same fear, that same hesitation.
John, please, she whispered.
I'm not ready. I didn't respond.
Please, she begged. You can't force me. I need time.
I let out a tired breath. Time for what?
She swallowed hard. Her next words were soft, broken, honest.
To let go. I closed my eyes. It was the first fully honest thing she had said all morning. She didn't hesitate because she was unsure. She hesitated because she was still holding on. Him. When I opened my eyes, she was staring at me like she was afraid of what I'd do next. Before I could speak, her phone buzzed again. But this time, instead of reaching for it, she whispered through tears,
Don't read it, please. It'll break you.
I stood still, not angry, not shaking.
Just quiet.
Nothing he sends me can break me, I said. You already did that. Her shoulders collapsed. She cried harder.
You don't understand, she choked. Then help me. I said, what don't I understand?
She squeezed her eyes shut. Then, trembling, barely able to breathe, she whispered the sentence I never saw coming. I told him I loved him before I realized I still loved you. My chest tightened. My hands went numb. But I didn't fall apart, because the worst part wasn't that she loved him. It was the second half of her sentence. Before I realized I still loved you. Still means both. Still means two. Still means she hadn't chosen me. She was torn between us like we were options on a list she couldn't complete. Her phone vibrated again. We would both stared at it. Her breathing quickened. My heart slowed. And in that heavy, frozen silence between the two of us, not the truth she hid, but the truth she tried and failed to let go of. Her phone vibrated one more time. Not loud, not urgent, just persistent enough to remind us both that the truth had its own pulse. And it wasn't going to stop beating for either of us. She stared at it like it was a bomb she didn't know how to defuse. Her lips trembled. Her hands pressed to her chest. John, she whispered, voice wet and thin. I'm begging you. Please don't open it. I didn't move toward the phone. I didn't need to, because the message wasn't the problem. The vibration wasn't the problem. Even the man behind it wasn't the problem. The problem was standing right in front of me, a woman torn between the life she promised me and the life she had willingly stepped into without me. She reached out again, slowly this time, not to touch me, to make me understand something she didn't know how to say. John, I told him I loved him because I was falling apart. I thought you didn't want me anymore. I met her eyes. Then why didn't you let me know you were falling? She broke again. Her hand covered her face. Her shoulders shook. I didn't know how she cried. I didn't know you'd still care. I didn't know you'd still want to fix anything. I didn't know. That's the problem, I said quietly. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You assumed. You filled in the silence with another man's voice instead of mine. She wiped her face frantically. Her breathing was sharp, uneven. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I know I have ruined everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I swear, John, please believe me. I was lost. I didn't want to disappear alone. You didn't disappear alone, I said. You disappeared with him. She winced, covering her mouth again. And now I continued, you're trying to come back, without letting go of where you went. Her eyes widened with a kind of understanding she'd been avoiding. No, I can let go. I need time. You've had time. Her voice cracked. Not enough. My heart clenched. Not with anger. With clarity. Then you don't want to let go, I said. She shook her head violently. No, John, that's not fair. I'm trying. Trying isn't choosing. Her legs weakened. She slid down the wall until she sat on the floor, hands in her hair, crying in that raw, silent way. People cry when they realize the consequences are no longer avoidable. For a moment, I looked at her, this woman. I loved this woman. I lost this woman who somehow managed to be both familiar and foreign in the same breath. Then I sat down on the opposite side of the room, not far, not close, just enough distance for the truth to sit between us like a shadow neither of us could step over. She looked at me through tears. John, do you hate me? I shook my head slowly. I don't hate you, I said, but I can't be who I was yesterday. Her lips parted in a tremble. Then who are you now? A man who knows the truth. She covered her mouth again. Her tears spilled over her fingers. And what does that mean for us? She whispered. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence stretch, not to hurt her, but because the truth needed space to settle. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady. It means you have to choose. Her breath hitched. Choose what, she whispered. Which life you're done with. She shook her head, sobbing harder. John, I don't want to lose either. That's not how this works. She pressed her hands to her heart. Her nails dug into her skin. I don't know how to let him go, she cried. I don't know how to shut it off overnight. I don't know how to walk away without breaking. You're already broken, I said softly. The question is who you're breaking for. Her sob grew louder. I can't lose you, she whispered. Then show me, I said. Not with words, with action. Right now. She lifted her shaking hand to her phone. This she asked, voice barely present. Yes. She stared at the locked screen. A screen she had protected with lies, protected with fear, protected with the kind of devotion she was supposed to give to me. Her thumb trembled above the screen. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. Then her phone buzzed again. And in that single vibration, I saw the truth land inside her, a truth she had been resisting for months. She wasn't hesitating because of guilt. She was hesitating because letting him go would mean stepping back into a marriage she had already left in her heart. Her thumb dropped away from the phone. "I can't," she whispered. I inhaled. Slowly. "You just made your choice." Her face crumpled. No, please, John, don't say that. Listen to me, I just need—" "You had him," I said. "You had me. And the only one you fought for was him." She sobbed harder, reaching for me instinctively. I stepped back. Her hand hovered in the air. And then, somewhere inside her, something broke. Not guilt, not fear. Acceptance. The acceptance that she had betrayed the wrong man for the wrong reason with the wrong person and now had to live with the pieces. She collapsed to the floor, crying uncontrollably. Her body shook. Her voice cracked. Her heart, whatever part of it, remained in our marriage, couldn't hide anymore. I stood in the doorway, breathing slowly, letting the silence settle. There were no more questions, no more lies, no more masks to peel away. Just the truth, bare, painful, undeniable. A truth she had tried to hide in alleyways, in car doors, in whispered calls behind bathroom walls. A truth she built with someone else while expecting me not to notice. I reached for the door. Her head shot up. "John, where are you going?" I looked at her, this woman who couldn't choose me, even with the truth burning at her feet. "I'm going somewhere," I said quietly, "where your phone can't reach me." Her face broke again. "Please don't walk out." I didn't answer. I opened the door slowly. Cold morning air swept in. Behind me, she sobbed a sentence that will echo in me for the rest of my life. "I didn't lose you because I loved him. I lost you because I didn't know how to stop." I stepped outside. The door closed behind me. The silence on the other side felt like the end of a world I didn't realize I had already left.